Okay, welcome Year 8, Friday 1st. Let's get the day written down. The 1st of October today, nice. So, the title for today, Squares and Square Roots. That'll finish off this chapter quite nicely. I don't know why I've said it's Friday, because it's Thursday. So, there you go. What I'd like us to do is we've got a starter. So, if you can't read it, I'll read it to you. We've got question 1, 6 squared. Add 2 squared. Question 2, we've got 8 squared, take away 3 squared. And question 3, we've got 3 cubed, take away 2 cubed. So, can we try them? Pause me, miss or sir, whoever's there, and if you could let me know when you, well, let me know, just unpause me when you're ready, I'll go through. Okay, so answers to the starter. 6 squared, 36. 2 squared, 4. So 6 add 4, 36 add 4, 40. Number 2, 8 squared, 64. Take away 3 squared, 9. 64, take away 9, 55. And the final one, 3 cubed. Remember, cubed means times by itself 3 times. So 3 times 3 times 3, which is 27. I know some of you have got that written in your book, so well done if you've checked. And take away 2 cubed is 8. So 27 take away 8 is 19. Okay. We talked about square roots. And we've talked about square numbers, and we've done some work on the pods. There's a lot of work on the pods for that. So what we're going to look at today is a few buttons on the calculator, just so that, yes, we know how to square an integer, a whole number. We know how to do that, 6 squared, 36, because that's 6 times 6. And we did that in the exercise yesterday, and hopefully you got to that question. Well, hopefully you did, because that was question 2. So today I want to talk about square rooting, which is the reverse, but also some buttons on the calculator, so I'm hoping this works, because you will need to use a calculator. So miss or sir, there are some calculators in a box just over there, but hopefully they should have their own. If you haven't got your own, please can you get one, and please can you get one that is scientific for the future, because you'll need one of these. The Casios, they're the best ones. So the ones that I've got, they're the ones you need. So, square rooting, just before we talk about the calculator. So if I ask for the square root of 144, that is a square root sign. The square root of 144, that means what number did I start with, and I times it by itself to get 144. Well, in this case, I started with 12, because 12 times 12 is 144. So the square root of 144 is 12. And we can do that with any square number. We can do it with any number, but we can do it in our heads with any square number. So the square root of 25, which number did I start with and times by itself to get 25? Well, I started with, you've probably just said it, 5. 5 times 5. We don't need to write 5 times 5, we just write 5, yeah? The square root of 25 is 5. Okay, just chuck one more in. Square root of 1. What number did we start with? You've probably just said it again, or you're thinking it. What number did we start with? 1. 1 times 1 is 1. We don't need to write 1 times 1 then. And that's square rooting. So, the exercise itself, you'll probably be able to get straight on with. However, you're going to need to use these buttons. So, if I show you on the calculator, I'm going to hope this works. Okay, so here's the calculator that you're hopefully going to be using. Now, the buttons you need to use, okay, so if I'm going to type something in, let's see if this works. There we go, we can kind of see. So if I wanted to do 6 squared, I have to press up here, there's a button, and it's X with a little 2. And when I press it, it does it at like a little 2, 6 squared. And then I press equals, and I get 36. Alright, so what you do is you type the number first that you want to square, and then press equals, okay? Now, it's the opposite for square rooting, okay? So whatever number, if we use the example that was on the board, 144, So the square root button is just there. It's a little square root with a coloured in square. And if I press that, a little square root does come up with a little square in it. So if I say 144, there we go, square root of 144, and I press equals, hopefully I get 12, which I did, because the square root is 12. So that's the square root button and the squared button. Just to be aware, if I give you an example, because this can happen, so let's look at a decimal. I'll just pick a random decimal, 5.2, okay, let's say I want to square it, so I press my little x squared button there, puts a little 2 on for me, press equals. Now this happens sometimes, you may not have seen this before, oh dear, I've got a fraction. But this is a button you'll get much use out of if you get one of these calculators. And it's this SD button. If you press that, your decimal answer pops up. And as you can see there, it's 27.04. So the SD button, it changes from a fraction to a decimal. I mean, the S does stand for third, but don't worry too much about that. So there we go. Okay. And then if I just show you any value, so let's just pick a random one, 230. Oops. I'm going to do the square root. So remember, I press the square root button first. 230. Press equals. And it comes up with the same answer. Oh no. So what we do is we press our SD button and we get our decimal answer. Alright? And that's what we do. So just be aware of that. If you know you're making a mistake, for example, let's say I wanted the square root of 52 and I did 52 and then press square root. If I press equals, it comes up with an error message. So I've typed something wrong on the calculator. Okay? So they're the two buttons you're going to need for question 4 in the exercise. So, we're working out this book. We all know about this book. It's been used. Can you turn to page 5? Alright, it's exercise 1H. Can you work your way through the questions on this page? You will need a calculator for question 4. Work your way through the problem solving. And on question 1, I do want you to write the question out. Question 2, you can just write the answers because we did a lot of that last lesson, so just the answers. For question 3, you can just write the answers. Question 4, the question needs to be written out. So for example, 20 squared, the bit that's next to A, that's going to need to be written out. But then the answer that comes up in your calculator, so 20 squared equals, and then the answer on the calculator. So we can make sure, cert or miss, that that's what's happening, please, in the books. And then the problem solving, you can work your way through. Okay. Right. Miss or sir, with 10 minutes left in the lesson, if you can unpause me or replay me or whatever you want to say, I'm just going to read through the answers quickly. Take as much or as little time as possible looking through here. If you need to pause me and rewind, feel free. But please mark in green pen and please make any corrections. I'm just going to go through the first 4. That way we're on par. If you've done the problem solving, I'll look at that when I come back in. Alright. So question 1A, you should have had, I'll just go through what's in the box. So there should be a 2 in that box. For part B, you should have had 4 times 4 in the box. For part C, you should have had 36 in the box. For part D, you should have had 3 times 3 equals 9. For part E, 5 times 5 is 25. And now although there's only one box on F, you should have still written 10 times 10 is 100. Alright. For question 2, he's put some cards down. He says he needs to square him. So you times in them by themselves. So for part A, you should have had 4. For part B, 36. For part C, 64. For part D, 25. For part E, 0. For part F, 1. For part G, 81. For part H, 49. And for part I, 100. And now question 3 was asking about what we were talking about earlier, the square roots. Alright, square root of 25 for part A is 5. B is 4. C is 7. D is 10. E is 36. No, it's not, that's the question. It's 6. F is 8. G is 1. H is interesting because if you type the square root of 0, just try typing in the square root of 0, see what comes up. It might create a bit of discussion, alright? Now if you put 0, I'll allow it, but is there a square root of nothing? Bit of discussion, have a think about it. And I would be 9. Now, for question 4, so 20 squared, you should have got 400. I'm going to just do these here because some of these are going to be tricky. The square root of 900, 30. For part C, the square root of 169 would be 13. Part D, 2.5 squared, 6.25. For part E, the square root of 2 is 1.414213562. 0.5 squared. For part F, you should have got 0.25. For part G, the square root of 10 is 3.1622776. The square root of 34 for question H, 5.830951895. Lots of numbers. And the final one, this 1.3 squared, not as many numbers. You should have got 1.69. Okay, and like I said, we'll go through the problem solving questions. Well, thanks for working hard, and I will see you tomorrow.